All right, so we want to talk more about the quotes and transitions that we referenced the other day. So after you get past the news lead, then you're ultimately building a story. And at this point, we referenced it. We said you could kind of go lead, quote, transition, quote, transition. So you're going to go straight news lead, maybe some information. Maybe that's part of a transition into a quote. Then it goes transition, quote, transition. I mean, that's an okay format for now that we're going to start with, but we'll move past that pretty quickly. But it's a good start for your straight news stories. And as we do that, we really want those transitions to be informative. And so that's kind of really what this is about. And so as you look at these league towns, I call them league towns, they're the UIL district prompts, these optional news stories that I call them as well. Those are the handouts. They give you a lot of quotes, and then you're going to paraphrase some of those and figure out how to do it. So let's get into that and see that in a few slides. So the first thing I don't want you to do is really generalize the opinion of a group by saying some or many. And too many times we do that. We'll say something like this: many students enjoy reality TV shows, but they say they aren't very realistic. And then you go to the quote: the only time in my life when I was surrounded by 20 women was when I accidentally walked into the women's restroom at Arrowhead when I was in 7th grade, freshman Christian Gooley said. The reality is the many or some. How many is that? I don't know. How many is that? Is that 3, 10, 20? Well, odds are probably this reporter talked to maybe 3, 4, 5 people, maybe. And so many is 2, 3 in their mind. So it's not our version of many. So it's just something you should avoid. And we'll talk about the solution for this here in a minute. Or this one: some think pop stars have gone too far in their outfits. Sia reminds me more of a well-dressed Shaggy Dog than a music icon, freshman Lauren McGuire said. So I just want to avoid some because I don't know how many that is. Many, same thing. So what do? Well, you let one person speak for a point. So just like in those situations, and really you're just showing me different sides to the argument and different people's experiences for people to see. Unless you do a poll that and then you could generalize like a group because you'd actually have numbers to back up a larger uh, uh, backing of your points, I guess. So rather than do what we just saw, we just say freshman Christian Gooley said that while he watches reality TV shows, he doesn't find them very comparable to his life. And then boom, you go right to the quote. Now notice two things. On first reference, I always have an identifier and first and last name. And then you go to the quote first, and then you come to the attribution after that. The attribution is Gooley said. That's called attribution. And notice its last name on second reference. And also notice that it's said. Said is the neutral word. It's not cheered, laughed, applauded. It's not any, it's just the neutral said. It's okay. That's a neutral word that'll just go away. If it's word stated, that actually means in printed text. So again, you saw the other one. Freshman Lauren McGuire said that music stars have gone too far. And then boom, we go to her quote. And also notice here, comma, comma, end quote, and then McGuire said. Not said McGuire, but McGuire said, because that's our natural speech pattern. So when we go with attributions, you're always going to go with natural speech patterns, unless you've got a long like description about the person or the context of the phrase. So here's the meat of what we're going to get into in these league towns: is that paraphrase facts or opinion from a long quote. So ultimately, there's the whole idea that it's called paraphrase facts, quote, opinion, or description. That's the old adage for journalism: paraphrase facts, quote, opinion, or description. So when I look at this paragraph, much like I get these interviews in these UIL prompts, these league town prompts, and they'll just ask you to sort of pick the best quotes, and the rest you can it's still a good information. Sometimes it just needs to be paraphrased. So in this case, we've got this paragraph: this is my 4th year leading the dog home drive, sophomore Sadie Coleman said. By my estimates yesterday, we found homes for some 55 dogs. We worked hard. It's worth sitting in front of PetSmart for 8 hours in 20-degree weather when I got to see that girl hug her beagle puppy. Just a beagle puppy. So yes, what do we do? Where are the facts here? What could I paraphrase? And then where's the best quote? If I'm going to try to set up quote, what's the one am I going to try to set up? Here's what I would have done. Sadie Coleman, who's in her 4th year as director of the Dog Home Drive, said they found homes for 55 dogs Saturday. Paraphrased, concise, gets in some identifier about her, and then goes to the quote. It's worth sitting in front of PetSmart for 8 hours in 20-degree weather when I got to see that girl hug her beagle puppy. It's more descriptive than any of the other information. The other information is factual. So look for the quotes in these UIL prompts that are more descriptive. Choose those, set those up, then look to see in the rest of the information, is there stuff that I could just paraphrase succinctly? But don't just repeat what's in the quotes. See this all the time. Freshman Ashlyn Halen said that she thought the closed lunch rules were excessive and the hall monitors were a bunch of Nazis. Having a closed campus lunch is too much, and those hall monitors are Nazis, Haley said. So it just says the same thing. I didn't advance the story. You'll hear me say that over and over. Does each paragraph advance the story? Does it give me new information? And if I just paraphrase information that I turn around and say in the quote, then I call it running in place. I'm not going forward. I'm just the writer, or not the writer, the reader gets bored. So you have to look for something beyond that. And avoid weak say nothing transitions too. Not that there's never a place for this transition, but for the most part, people just throw it in there. Sophomore NK said she liked having Teletubbies week for Spirit Week. Nothing can be greater than going to a costume shop and buying those big Barney-like outfits, Kay said. Freshman Ginger Hawes agreed. I like it when Dr. Sherman does his Tinky Winky impression on the announcements, Hawes said. It makes my day go better, and then I can't wait to go home to see the real thing. So, right, freshman Ginger Hawes agreed. That's your weak say nothing transition. In a long story, it's a nice break. As a go-to device in my interview or in my writing, it's just repetitive and weak. And again, it doesn't add information. You want to advance your story, add information. Okay. And then finally, this one, just use information, the transition that adds meaning or credibility to the quote. Sometimes there's other information in there that gives the whole thing credibility. Dr. Isabel Anderson, who was on the school board in 2012 when the policy was first proposed, said she thought that the new grading system would pass. More parents than ever have come to me this year asking for honors credit for football, Dr. Anderson said. I just think the boards are ready to give some consideration to the power of brute strength. It is a good example of how I can give me some context for the decision, a context for her, like that fact that she was on the board when they first, sort of proposed it. So she knows, she's got some background, she's got some knowledge. So again, it's just more additional information to the story. So there you go. That's kind of my quick run through of quotes and transitions, but just some quick tips as far as how you handle those in those writing prompts or just in regular news stories.